What if the best sci-fi stories ever told weren't hidden behind paywalls, but right there on YouTube, waiting to be rediscovered? These are the classics that shaped everything from Star Wars to The Matrix, once forgotten, now free. From Cold War paranoia to alien prophecy, these films dared to predict the future and terrified their creators in the process. Let's count down 12 free-to-watch sci-fi masterpieces you can stream right now. Number 12. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. When it first premiered, The Day the Earth Stood Still wasn't just another alien invasion flick. It was a mirror held up to humanity's fear of itself. Released during the height of Cold War tension, Robert Wise's black and white epic stunned audiences with its calm, terrifying premise. An alien named Claytu arrives in Washington, D.C., not to conquer Earth, but to warn it. The film's peaceful message was shocking. While America obsessed over atomic power, this movie dared to say that mankind, not extraterrestrials, was the real threat. Religious groups and conservative commentators accused it of cosmic communism, calling Claytu's plea for peace a veiled attack on patriotism. Behind the scenes, 20th Century Fox executives were terrified of public backlash. Early drafts were censored by government advisors who worried it could undermine national confidence. Even the chilling robot Gort, a symbol of ultimate deterrence, was designed under the watchful eye of Pentagon consultants. But the film's legacy outlived the paranoia. Today it stands as one of the earliest examples of science fiction used for moral awakening. Its famous line, Kladu Barada Nikto, has echoed through pop culture for decades, even inspiring dialogue in Army of Darkness and Star Wars. The Day the Earth Stood Still remains a haunting reminder. Sometimes the aliens come not to destroy us, but to save us from ourselves. Number 11. Forbidden Planet, 1956. When Forbidden Planet arrived in theaters, it was unlike anything audiences had ever seen. MGM's lavish production, its shimmering colors, massive sets, and pioneering electronic score turned science fiction from pulp to prestige. But beneath its dazzling visuals lay a dark Freudian fable. Inspired by Shakespeare's The Tempest, the film transported viewers to the distant world of Altair the Ford, where Dr. Morbius and his daughter live alone among the ruins of an extinct civilization. The twist? The planet's vanished inhabitants had harnessed technology so powerful it destroyed them, mirroring the subconscious dangers lurking inside Morbius himself. At the time, critics praised its spectacle but were unnerved by its psychological depth. Religious groups protested its godlike machines. The Production Code Administration forced rewrites to tone down implications about forbidden knowledge and human desire. Even its mechanical star, Robbie the Robot, faced censorship concerns. Some thought he was too human. MGM feared a financial disaster, but Forbidden Planet became a sleeper hit, later influencing Star Trek, Star Wars, and 2001, A Space Odyssey. Its electronic soundtrack, the first entirely synthesized film score, was banned from radio play for unnatural tones. What survived was more than a film. It was a prophecy of the atomic age's arrogance. Forbidden Planet wasn't about aliens. It was about us, our curiosity, and the monsters inside our minds. Number 10. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. Few films have captured Cold War paranoia like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Released during the McCarthy era, it terrified audiences with a question that hit too close to home. What if your neighbor looked exactly the same, but wasn't human anymore? Set in a small California town, the story follows a doctor who uncovers a terrifying secret. Alien pods are replicating humans and replacing them with soulless copies. The metaphor was unmistakable. To some, it was a critique of communist conformity. To others, a warning against blind patriotism. Even its creators disagreed on the message, giving it an eerie ambiguity that made it timeless. Studio executives forced the director, Don Siegel, to shoot a more hopeful ending, fearing the original was too bleak for 1950s audiences. But nothing could dilute its creeping dread. The film's lack of monsters, replaced by emotionless faces, made it scarier than any creature feature of its time. Banned briefly in Eastern Europe for subversive content, it later became a touchstone for counterculture paranoia. Critics who once dismissed it as pulp began calling it a masterpiece of psychological horror. Decades later, Invasion of the Body Snatchers feels even more relevant. In an era of echo chambers and manipulated realities, it's a chilling reminder. Losing our humanity doesn't always start with aliens. It starts with apathy. Number 9. The Incredible Shrinking Man, 1957. When The Incredible Shrinking Man hit screens, it was marketed as a simple monster movie, but audiences soon realized it was something deeper, a haunting existential reflection on humanity's insignificance in an infinite universe. The story follows Scott Carey, an ordinary man who begins to shrink after exposure to a mysterious radioactive mist. As he dwindles to microscopic size, everyday life turns into a nightmare. The cat becomes a predator, the basement a desert, and his marriage fades into memory. What begins as science fiction becomes pure philosophy. The film's bleakness unsettled censors. Its ending, where Carey accepts his fate and merges with the infinite, was considered too metaphysical, even blasphemous. Universal Studios demanded rewrites, fearing audiences would reject the abstract. But screenwriter Richard Matheson refused. His poetic finale, where Carey whispers, "I still exist," remains one of the most profound moments in 1950s cinema. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Some called it nihilistic. Others hailed it as genius. Over time, the film's allegory about male fragility, atomic fear, and cosmic humility gained cult status. Its special effects, miniature sets, and optical compasses were revolutionary for the era. Today, The Incredible Shrinking Man stands as proof that science fiction can be deeply human. It doesn't just shrink its protagonist, it magnifies what it means to exist at all. Number 8. The Time Machine, 1960. Before time travel became a blockbuster trope, The Time Machine gave audiences something profound. A journey not through space, but through human destiny itself. Adapted from H.G. Wells's visionary novel, George Pal's film followed a Victorian inventor who propels himself hundreds of thousands of years into the future, only to find mankind divided into two races, the gentle Eloi and the monstrous Morlocks. What he discovers isn't progress, it's decay. The film's message was politically explosive. In the height of the nuclear age, Wells's cautionary tale of civilization collapsing under its own hubris felt too real. Religious organizations accused it of atheistic fatalism, while British censors trimmed violent sequences involving the Morlocks. Behind the scenes, the movie's pioneering time-lapse effects nearly derailed production. MGM executives doubted audiences would grasp its complexity. But The Time Machine became a hit, earning an Academy Award for special effects and inspiring generations of futurists. Decades later, it's more than nostalgia, it's prophecy. Its depiction of beauty masking decay mirrors our own obsession with progress at any cost. The time traveler's lament, "We all have our time machines," still resonates today as humanity races forward, forgetting what it leaves behind. Number 7. Plan 9 from Outer Space, 1959. It was called the worst movie ever made, but Plan 9 from Outer Space is now a legend. Directed by Ed Wood, the king of cinematic chaos, this low-budget alien invasion film was once mocked into obscurity. Today, it's a cult phenomenon that embodies everything strange and beautiful about DIY filmmaking. The premise is wild. Aliens resurrect the dead to stop humanity from creating a doomsday weapon. Cardboard tombstones, visible strings, and wooden acting turned it into unintentional comedy gold. Yet, behind the camp, there's a tragic sincerity. Wood truly believed he was making a masterpiece. After its 1959 release, critics eviscerated it. Theaters pulled screenings, distributors refused promotion, and its star Bela Lugosi died mid-production, forcing Wood to use a stand-in who covered his face with a cape. For decades, the film disappeared, until the 1980s, when cult audiences rediscovered it on late-night TV. Ironically, Plan 9 became more influential than its big-budget rivals. Filmmakers, like Tim Burton and Sam Raimi, praised its fearless absurdity. What began as failure transformed into a symbol of outsider art, a movie made by dreamers who refused to quit. Plan 9 from Outer Space reminds us that passion can outlive ridicule. Even the strangest visions deserve their place among the stars. Number 6. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. Before Outbreak or Contagion, there was The Andromeda Strain, a film so scientifically realistic that NASA reportedly studied its models of containment. Directed by Robert Wise, the same man behind The Day the Earth Stood Still, it captured a terrifying question. What if the next pandemic didn't come from Earth? The film follows a team of scientists investigating a satellite crash that brings back a microscopic organism capable of wiping out humanity. Shot with surgical precision, the movie used real scientific advisors and cutting-edge effects to simulate biohazard technology decades ahead of its time. But its realism caused problems. Government officials allegedly requested script revisions to remove details they deemed too accurate. Religious groups condemned its portrayal of science as the only salvation. Even its computer-generated sequences, among the first ever used, were censored in television broadcasts for being disturbingly clinical. Critics praised its slow-burn suspense, though some called it too intellectual. Over time, it became a cult favorite, especially after real viral outbreaks made its warnings prophetic. The Andromeda Strain wasn't just science fiction. It was a blueprint for survival. Watching it today, one can't help but feel the chill of recognition. The enemy was never the alien microbe. It was our overconfidence. Number 5. Planet of the Apes, 1968. Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape. With that line, Planet of the Apes redefined science fiction forever. What seemed like pulp adventure became a searing political allegory about evolution, oppression, and human arrogance. Charlton Heston's astronaut crash lands on a planet ruled by intelligent apes, only to discover the devastating twist. The planet is Earth, long after humanity destroyed itself. The ending stunned audiences into silence. Religious organizations called it blasphemous, while politicians saw it as anti-American. Behind the scenes, producers battled censors over its evolutionary themes. Studio executives demanded rewrites, fearing backlash from conservative groups. The ape makeup, pioneering at the time, took hours each day, pushing cast morale to the brink. Yet, the result was revolutionary, earning an honorary Oscar and spawning an entire franchise. Banned in several countries for its anti-human tone, Planet of the Apes thrived underground. Critics later hailed it as one of the boldest endings in film history, a warning carved in celluloid. In the end, Planet of the Apes wasn't about talking monkeys. It was about us, about how every civilization, no matter how advanced, eventually digs its own grave. Number 4. Soylent Green, 1973. Few films dared to depict the future as horrifyingly plausible as Soylent Green. Set in an overpopulated, overheated New York of 2022, it imagined a world where food is scarce, pollution suffocates the air, and the powerful feed on the weak, literally. Charlton Heston stars as a weary detective investigating a corporation's secret behind its synthetic food supply. The revelation, Soylent Green is people, became one of cinema's most infamous lines. But in 1973, it was seen as dangerously political. Censors objected to its themes of corporate cannibalism and environmental collapse. MGM executives reportedly debated shelving it entirely. Even its advertising campaign was muted, with trailers omitting the central twist. Critics were divided. Some hailed it as visionary, others as grim propaganda. Behind the camera, tension ran high. Actor Edward G. Robinson, dying of cancer during filming, delivered his final performance in the film's most emotional scene. A euthanasia sequence so poignant, it left the crew in tears. Over time, Soylent Green became prophetic. Its vision of climate disaster and economic inequality feels eerily current. Once dismissed as dystopian fantasy, it now plays like tomorrow's documentary. Soylent Green doesn't just warn, it begs us to look in the mirror and ask what we're really consuming. Number 3, The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. David Bowie had always seemed alien, and in The Man Who Fell to Earth, he finally became one. Nicholas Roeg's surreal masterpiece follows an extraterrestrial who comes to Earth seeking water for his dying planet, only to be destroyed by human greed. The film's fragmented editing, erotic imagery, and abstract storytelling baffled audiences upon release. Critics either hailed it as genius or dismissed it as nonsense. In some U.S. states, it was banned outright for moral indecency and anti-capitalist undertones. Behind the chaos was real tragedy. Bowie, spiraling from exhaustion and isolation, lived the role. He later confessed he could no longer tell where the alien ended, and he began. The production nearly collapsed under studio interference and censorship, with entire sequences cut for being too disturbing. Yet, the movie's message endures. A being of infinite intelligence undone by human obsession with profit. Its haunting imagery, Bowie's frail frame, his glassy stare, captures the loneliness of modern existence. The Man Who Fell to Earth isn't just science fiction, it's an autopsy of humanity's corruption. Watching it today feels less like nostalgia and more like prophecy. Number 2. Logan's Run, 1976. In the glittering domes of Logan's Run, youth is worshipped and death is mandatory. This glossy MGM spectacle masked one of the darkest premises of the 1970s, a world where citizens are executed at 30 to preserve perfect social order. When it premiered, Logan's Run shocked audiences. It mixed disco-era glam with existential terror. Behind the neon lights lay a meditation on control, rebellion, and the price of utopia. Censors targeted its violent carousel sequences, ritualized executions disguised as renewals. Religious groups accused it of mocking rebirth and resurrection. The film's early edits were trimmed for TV, cutting key political undertones about surveillance and population control. Despite mixed reviews, it became a box office hit and a cult favorite. Its influence can be seen in everything from The Hunger Games to Blade Runner. But its production was chaotic. Budget overruns, studio panic, and on-set injuries nearly derailed it. In the end, Logan's Run outlived its critics. Beneath its plastic paradise was a timeless truth. Every perfect world hides a price, and every rebellion begins with one person daring to see the flaw. Number 1. Metropolis, 1927. Decades before CGI or laser beams, Metropolis imagined the future in breathtaking, terrifying detail. Fritz Lang's German masterpiece created the blueprint for every science fiction film that followed, from Blade Runner to The Matrix. Set in a dystopian city divided between the privileged elite and the enslaved workers below, Metropolis tells the story of rebellion, love, and machine domination. Upon release, it was both awe-inspiring and scandalous. Nazi censors banned it for socialist messaging. American distributors mutilated it, cutting nearly a third of the footage to remove its political content. Lang himself was devastated. The film's lost reels became legend, circulating in incomplete versions for decades. Only in the 21st century was a near-complete restoration found in an Argentine archive, an event hailed as cinematic resurrection. Its imagery, towering skyscrapers, the robot Maria, the hands of the workers, became visual scripture. Metropolis predicted not just technology, but class struggle, mass media, and the dehumanization of labor. Nearly a century later, Metropolis still feels alive. Its question remains unanswered. In building our machines, are we building our own masters? 12 visions, 12 warnings. Each film offered a glimpse of what might come, and what we've already become. From alien messiahs to mechanical slaves, these stories remind us that the future isn't written by machines. It's written by our choices. Which of these classics have you seen, and which one still haunts your dreams? Like, subscribe, and join the discussion.